everyone. There we are again. This is the fourth of the Meet the Filmmakers sessions. What it is we invite the filmmakers that are in the official selection in groups, either thematically or because their films are screening the same day. And we have a chat with them live for the pleasure of the audience and, of course, for them to meet each other. The idea came when we realized that after COVID, that we could only interview filmmakers who were here with us in New York. And after COVID, all the ways were opened to do live, online, and remote interviews. So we grabbed that opportunity and we started from 2021 doing these interviews. There are somehow something like 460 videos on the festival's YouTube channel. You should go, and if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. I'm doing like the YouTube hosts that say subscribe. Yes, you should, because then you will be informed of everything that's going on. But first things first, this is the 12th edition of the Socially Relevant Film Festival, New York. We have screened 740 films from 750 films from 40 countries so far, and have had a great time. I personally have learned so much programming and watching these films, because each and every one of them has a deep educational value besides their entertainment value, and enlightening the viewer about certain issues and matters that they may have not been aware of. We have learned about aging, we have learned about climate change, about disability, about environment, and about human trafficking, about women, about LGBTQI issues, about race, BIPOC films, and many, many other things. Prisons, the prison system, correctional matters, health issues, and it's endless. Many festivals focus on certain one issue. There is, like, for example, the Gay and Lesbian Film Festival. There is the Alcoholics Anonymous, Real Recovery Film Festival. And there is Real Abilities Film Festival, which is about disabilities or real abilities, and we are partnering with them, and so on and so forth. However, our festival does not pick one social issue, but leaves itself open to all sorts of social issues, and we go by what the filmmakers dictate us. So the filmmaker here is the king or the queen, as the case may be. Usually it's 50-50. And we go by the submissions of any particular year. So let me bring on our lovely filmmakers. We have two filmmakers joining us today, each bringing us beautiful documentary films, and we are going to address them one by one. Annie Leclerc's film, which is Calmer Waters, Les Eaux Calmes. It's a French-Canadian film, and it is part of our Voices of Canada series, in which we have a group of films, like I think 5 total. One of them is a narrative feature, and the 4 are documentaries. And we have Loulwa, is that correct? Yes. Loulwa Khoury, who is Lebanese, and her film, We Never Left, is about the Lebanese diaspora, Lebanese who have left but have not really left because they carry Lebanon in their hearts, like many diaspora people. So let's take turns, whoever wants to go first, since you're only 2, and tell us a little bit about who you are, what this film is about, how the idea came to you, and then we'll keep the discussion.
I can start, I guess.
Yes, go ahead.
So, yeah, my name is Annie Leclerc. I'm from Montreal. Les Eaux Calmes, Calmer Waters, is my first feature film. And before that, I did a short film of 7 minutes called Grounded. it was also about a woman living with a physical disability and who is also a mother. So Les Eaux Calmes, like I said, is actually about the first quadriplegic woman in Quebec to give birth. It's an intimate journey shot over a decade of her deeply transformative role of becoming a mother, and how this experience gave her confidence, changed the perception of herself and her limitations, and how ultimately it brought her to find her place in this world. So there you go.
Yeah, that's a very nice and short way of putting it. The film is very powerful because again, the definition of disability, this comes up a lot in our festival. In the past, we've screened films about Down syndrome people, and we have screened films about people who have had paraplegic accidents or have been paraplegic since birth, or many situations where disability has become an issue. And it's more like the point of view of the person who is not the disabled one that is imposed upon the other person. And that's why I really appreciate the real abilities, because it's about abilities. Let's focus on what's possible rather than what is impossible. And that's what your film shows. We also have in the Voices of Canada section, unfortunately, neither Josiane Leblanc, who was the filmmaker, who is the filmmaker, or José Piranyan, who is the subject of that film and is Lebanese as well. I wanted him to be here so you could also meet, is part of that as well. And in José's case, it's a matter of stammer that has held him back since he was a child. And now José has surpassed that, and he is a keynote speaker in a lot of important places and does stand-up comedy. And that's what the film is about his journey from getting over it and confronting his stammer and taming it. So this is really what the whole thing is about in the disability section. In Loulwa, what about your film? It's not about disability, but it's another form of am I there or am I here?
Yeah, so my film, We Never Left, is about the Lebanese diaspora navigating recent years of crisis through activism and community. And it's also about their relationship with Lebanon. It's kind of like a love-hate relationship that I think a lot of like immigrants go through. It's also about the revolution in Lebanon that was happening in 2019 that kind of like ignited this film, I guess. So yeah, and I'm happy to be here and to be screening at Socially Relevant in New York soon.
I guess it's your premiere. You told me that it's the New York premiere.
Yes, the world premiere was in San Francisco at the Arab Film Festival, and Socially Relevant will be our fourth festival since October. But the New York premiere is very important for us because this is kind of the hub of the film, and a lot of people might be like on screen in the film and like also sitting in the audience because this is where the film started. Wow. So I'm very excited to be showing in New York specifically.
Yes. So are we. Let me take a moment here and tell the readers where they can find the tickets and more information and see the trailers of these films. And this is the festival website, ratedsrfilms.org. There you can find the schedule at a glance. You can find the trailers of each film. These two are documentaries, so you would look under the documentary films and you'll find the trailers. And also we have special tickets for you. We have the early bird single ticket, which was only $5. Unfortunately, has now sold out. But hey, good news. There's a cheaper ticket How low can you get? Look how wonderful we are in democratizing this whole process. Early bird tickets for trio, which is $12, is for 3 tickets. You can use those 3 tickets for 3 different films, or you can use them come with 3 people to see the same movie. So it's a great deal. It comes to $4 a ticket, which can't get you even a latte these days. And then there is the 75 Trio Elite, and so on and so forth. You can go there and check to see which ticket category best suits your needs. So I'm also going to tell the audience, whoever is watching, about the comments section. I put a welcome note in there. If you are watching and you have a question that you want to address either to Annie, Loulwa, or to myself, feel free to post it there, and then we will address it at an appropriate moment in the show. So who wants to tell us now how the idea of this film came about, how you got to your subjects in the film, in the documentary, and what were some of the challenges that you may have run into?
I can start. Well, for myself, it was a really long process, this film. I met my main protagonist, Solène, in 2010, so it's a while ago. And she was then pregnant with her first daughter, and I was directing a series on birth for television. And so I met her through that series. She did the show I directed her episode, and it was about, showing just the moment before giving birth and a little bit like a few weeks after the birth. And after that, I was completely bulldozed by her. I guess I felt like the tremendous curiosity to follow her. I was magnetized to follow her for what was coming after the birth. I see how she would manage as a mother and being tetraplegic. So this is how it all started. And from that curiosity, so I started to shoot the very first days in 2011, the research phase. And I decided to do a feature film, like a film about 90 minutes, and where I would include 2 other characters, 2 other mothers living with physical disability. So I went into like a long process of finding those women. And when I find those 2 other women, it was 3 really strong stories. And I went into development phase, and I got funding. And that I'm going to fast forward. We were now into 2017, so it took a long time. It was like I was shooting spare time with Solène mainly, and eventually with the 2 other women to prepare like a demo reel for that feature film. But yeah, it was a long process. It was difficult. We had funding in development, but I never managed to get funding in production. So what I decided to do in 2018 now, because I'm a full-time editor, I have to say this project was on the side, never like full-time. So I'm a full-time editor for documentary films. So in 2018, I decided to go more seriously and approach televisions, trying to fund it in production. It didn't work quite well yet. So I decided to separate the stories and make this one about Solène. So 3 different films. So there you go. Here we are with Les Ocanes, Calmer Waters. So from there, I decided to go, even if I don't have the funding to do it. And eventually I received help, some guardian angels and post-production who surrounded me, like the NFB. And also I have to mention beautiful Mimi Shakarova from Still I Rise Films in San Francisco, from which I received a fellowship program. And it was really beautiful to receive that support and mentorship. So there you go. That was a long intro to get to the end of the film.
Yeah, some of the common threads that I see in many of the films that we bring, whether they are narrative features or documentaries or even shorts, that filmmakers say, it took me 5 years, it took me 6 years. So it's a lifetime. It's not like you come up with an idea and you go, oh, wow, I have this great idea. I'll pick up my iPhone and I go, and next week I'll have a documentary ready to go. Well, maybe that's a reportage. It's not a documentary film when you're delving deep into the character, their lives, and the whole journey that they went through. And it's always interesting to hear, and I'm sure it's this kind of information is very interesting to hear for filmmakers who are out there, who are preparing works themselves, because then they go, wow, so that's long, that's how long it takes. And they know that they are not alone. This is the normal progression of the process of making a film. It's not like boom and you pick it out of a hat and then it's there. So yeah, so let's see how long it took Loulwa to put this together and tell us about your project.
For me, it took like 5 years, I think, like 4.5, 5 years since I started filming. And I'm also actually a full-time editor, mostly for documentaries. So this was my first film as a director to make, and it all started with like the first day of the Lebanese Revolution, which was like October 17, 2019. And I was very angry with everything happening in Lebanon. There was like an economic crisis starting like since summer 2019. There was like wildfires where like the government was very incompetent to like extinguish. And so everyone was very angry. And like when the revolution started, I just got a text from a friend in New York saying like, we're all going to the consulate to like have like a vigil. And I was like, okay, I'll be right there. Like I didn't think about it twice. So this is where I met the protagonist. Actually, that first day, this is where I met the protagonist of the film. And I just took like one random selfie video that is in the film right now. And then I asked them like, oh, can I come with you? Like if you do other stuff like throughout like the revolution? And they're like, sure. So the next day they called me to meet them at the consulate again. They just went to meet the consul and just give them like demands as like the Lebanese diaspora. So I went with them. And like they offered us coffee and stuff, which was nice. It felt like home again. And this is when I met a lot of people from the diaspora that I felt what I felt the whole time I've been in New York. I've been in New York like almost at that point. I was in New York for like almost 10 years. And just like the guilt that builds up of like leaving your home for a better career, a better future, like leaving your family, especially like with like Lebanon being so unstable, it builds up. And I think the revolution kind of brought us together as a community to fight the corruption through like activism and just like being together and like supporting each other during these like hard times and supporting our families. So this is how it all started. And yeah, I decided like, oh, I guess I'm going to keep filming. And I want to do this documentary because I wasn't sure the first month or so. And here I am 4 or 5 years later with an actual film, which is hard to believe, honestly, from where I started. Oh, you're mute.
Very interesting that you are both editors.
Yeah.
And of course, it's not surprising, but it's interesting. Why it's not surprising? Because documentary films are really made in the editing room or on the editing console, because you have an idea. It's not like a scripted film where you know, okay, I'm shooting this now and shooting this now and so on. But you grab the moment, you grab whatever is available at that moment to tell the story, which can take shape eventually. The story, you might have an idea of what you want to tell, but surprises happen and then things take their own course. I have seen it happen many, many times in films that I've been involved with or films that we have screened when the filmmaker has spoken about how they set off with an idea of what they wanted to do, and then it ended up dictating itself and imposing itself in a completely different way. And that's the truth of the matter, because the images speak, the images impose themselves. And that's pretty much the principle we follow in the Socially Relevant Film Festival. We don't dictate beforehand or ahead of time what topics we are going to cover in any particular film festival edition, but we go with what is submitted to us. First of all, it has to be top quality. It has to have a social issue at the core of it. Then once we make that selection, we decide and we start narrowing down. And out of that narrowed down, we see the topics float to the surface. And that's how we go. We don't say, okay, this year we'll focus on climate. This year we'll focus on this or that. It is the filmmakers who tell us what we need to focus on. So, so it's amazing. And it's such a learning curve for me personally, as I said earlier, to learn about these topics, but also to learn about how these films come about, how they are born, how they are initiated, where the idea is triggered in the head of the filmmaker and they decide this is an interesting topic. I want to share the information about this topic with the viewers. So now that we know where your films came from, we are going to ask you a question about them being at the Socially Relevant Film Festival. How did you find out about the festival? And also, what are your expectations from screening at the Socially Relevant Film Festival?
I guess I can start. We'll continue with this pattern.
We're starting like A-B. So
I read about the festival on Film Freeway, and I wasn't interested in big festival. They call it a category A festival, because I knew that my film was a social impact film, of course. And I know also that the little festival, they're very dedicated, they're very passionate. Like you, Nora, you know, I could feel that when I read your story, and it was important for me, that festival. I really chose it carefully. So thank you for selecting the film. It's the U.S. premiere of Les Eaux Calmes, Calmer Waters. So I'm very, very happy. And I saw the reaction of the film. It did a few festivals. We went to France called Festival du Film Social. And it was amazing. Like in 3 or 4 days, the film was actually presented in like 24 screenings around the country. Wow. And that's really quite something. And we managed, me and Solène, to attend to 5 of the screenings. And we saw the reaction with the audience. It was really magical. Young, old, in the middle, everyone was like interested in the film. So I hope, to engage with the audience of New York. I'm excited. And there you go.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're both going to be present and we have Q&As. We have always made sure that, especially when the Filmmakers is able to attend, to make sure that we leave an additional 10, 15 minutes after the screening before the other one starts, to be able to hear out from the filmmaker. Of course, a lot of people have already seen and heard what the film is about, and they are not going to ask questions about things that they've just seen. But sometimes they want to know background stories. They want to hear the filmmaker's voice and feel that there is a real person behind this amazing project. And we like to give the platform to the filmmakers to express themselves that way. And we are so excited to have you both. And as I mentioned earlier, Ani's film is part of the Voices of Canada series, which we have been collaborating with the Consulate General of Canada in New York over the past few years. At the beginning, Telefilm Canada was also with us for a few years, but now it's just the consulate, and we are very happy to have this partnership and support from the Canadian Consulate. And Loulwa, and you tell us how you came our way.
Yeah, actually, the first time I heard about Socially Relevant was when It Will Be Chaos was screening there, because I worked on it as an additional editor, and I saw that it was screening at Socially Relevant. So I kept it in my mind for like future projects, and thought like, oh, I'm gonna, like, what I like to do is make like either edit or like make stories about like social issues and issues that people should be hearing about, like human rights, sometimes like maybe like social issues through like artist stories. So I kept a mental note to keep the festival in mind. So when this film came along, it was definitely like on my list of festivals to apply to, because I felt like I did apply to a lot of like A-list festivals, but I knew also from like working on other films that usually it's much better to also like screen at like smaller festivals, because this is where you get to actually meet people, talk to people who like are actually interested. And I applied to a lot of like social issues festival, like Socially Relevant, or like human rights festivals, Arab festivals. And I thought like this is where the film should be seen. So Socially Relevant was definitely on my list of festivals to submit to, especially in New York, because I also love Cinema Village. It's a like nice like old school movie theater in New York.
Yeah.
That you really get like the experience of like, being in a movie theater, not like, bigger theaters. And so yeah, I'm just I'm happy to be screening there and screening at the festival.
It's interesting because there aren't very many art houses left in New York.
Yeah.
Of course, there is the Quad Cinema where we started. The first year of our festival started at the Quad Cinema in 2014. And in 2015, they also offered us a few screening slots, but then they had to go into their huge remodeling phase, and we were unable to go back there. Maybe one day we will collaborate again. But we are so happy to be at Cinema Village, and they are amazing. They give such incredible service that we are so happy to be there as well. Yeah, thank you so much for putting your trust in our festival. This subject came up on a previous Meet the Filmmaker session as well. So maybe we should take it up, because I'm also invited to participate in panels in the near future, to talk about film festivals and how filmmakers should go about selecting the right film festival for their film. We get a lot of films that I feel bad about the filmmaker, because I can tell they didn't read the guidelines. They don't know what our festival is all about. We are about nonviolent films. We are about nonviolent forms of filmmaking. And by that, I mean explosions and chases and gunshots and stuff that don't improve on our lives. If it's a story about an issue that you have to show some of that, it's okay. We're not going to censor the film, but I'm talking about gratuitous violence. And we get a lot of films that I feel like the filmmaker didn't read, and they were just indiscriminately applying left, right, and center, which is total waste of money, because there are fees to apply to film festivals. So I would urge all filmmakers that are out there to read carefully, to look and make sure that whatever film they are submitting to whichever film festival corresponds to what that festival is looking for. And one way of doing that is to attend that film festival and see the films and be aware of the type of films that the film festival likes or favors or goes for, instead of just blindly applying. And then sometimes I get also notes from filmmakers who say, my film is so socially relevant. We made such a huge effort, but we are surprised why you didn't take it. While we are at it, let me also say a couple of words about that. Unfortunately, our screening capacities are not unlimited. We are not, like you said, an A film festival. We are an A- film festival, not an A+ film festival. We're slowly getting there, but we don't have unlimited funding. We are nonprofit, and we do have grants, but they are not huge grants to enable us to do month-long screenings live in a cinema. And real estate cinema in New York, you can imagine, is quite pricey. So we have to select at some point. And a lot of times the difficulty for us is not to select the films we want to show, but how to leave out this one, how to leave out that one, because they are all beautiful films. They are all dealing with important social issues. But at some point, we have the editorial line has to follow, and then we have to make a choice and not show that. So with the Lebanese films, we did have a couple of other, not on the same topic, similar, but different topics. And they were good films, but we felt, well, this is not the Lebanese Film Festival. So we cannot, show all of these. We don't have that much room. Incidentally, in 2021, August, we did a special focus on Lebanon, which was called Unbroken: Memory and Identity in Lebanese Cinema. And that was to mark the first anniversary of the explosion of the port of Beirut. And we showed, of course, that project was all Lebanese films. We do these events every now and then. But of course, during the main festival event, we have limited screening and we have to choose. It doesn't mean that the films are bad. So please, whoever didn't make this selection, don't get discouraged. Apply, submit, come to us again, and I'm sure at some point we will have the occasion to screen your films. So another question, another round, maybe this way we go the other way. What are your next projects? We are always interested in finding out what the filmmaker intends to do next. You don't have to divulge secrets if you don't want to, but maybe you want to share some points with us.
I guess I can share a little bit.
Yeah.
So after I finished We Never Left, I kind of told myself that I was not gonna direct another film again. I was just happy with my cozy editing life, and I wanted to get back to that. But I got approached recently with a very interesting subject, at least for me. And I'm not going to go too much in details because it's still very new, but let's just say it's also about Arab Americans, or about like the diaspora, and but it's more related to music, and it's also still related to cultural identity and just like identity in general. But very, very different from We Never Left. It's definitely more in the like punk scene, I would say, which is a side of me. I would say like I also have a background in music, and that's like a side of me that I always like to bring back into films that I make. So that's all I'll say about my next project.
Well, that is really interesting. Very, very interesting. We have a documentary about musicians in New York. So maybe when you get a chance, check it out. It's Untold Concerts. And so it's a short, and it's screening as part of the um, Art and Empowering Women series on Friday. So what I would like to say to filmmakers, to you both, and also whoever is listening and other filmmakers, it's very important to see what your fellow filmmakers are doing, because you get an idea. Sometimes you watch somebody's film and then you get an idea that it's not like stealing the idea and going and making the same film. I'm talking about it triggers something in you, and then you go, wow, wait a minute, I want to tell the story that happened to me, da 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 da, something like that, which springs from a thought or a feeling or a moment that you live watching the other person's film. And it's such a learning curve, it's such a learning process that, it's very, very important to share. That's the whole idea. So, Ami.
Sorry, can I say something real
Yes,
quick?
of course. Yes.
But it's about what you're saying now. But I think it is important when you're making a film to go out there and like watch other films that are either kind of related to your film, or if you have an idea you would like to process that, to watch other films, because there's a lot out there that can inspire you and give you new ideas, sometimes in style, or just like to see how other people have done similar subjects. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
all. Annie, you go.
Thank you. For myself, like I mentioned before, it was a long process of 13 years from start to finish with Les Ocam. But through those years, I met those two other women's mothers living with a physical disability as well. So I have two other stories waiting for me. I shot a lot of stuff with them as well. So I'm not going to say too much, but yeah, there is this visual artist and dance performer who lost her legs as a child. And there is also this activist solo mom who decided to become a mother. She was just like not having a boyfriend in her life or anything, and decided to go through a clinic of fertility to have her first child. So there you go. These are waiting for me.
These are such courageous stories, and it becomes a very interesting trilogy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for me, it was really important. I didn't say before, but I really wanted to show, to give a voice to these women, because they're not being seen. Women living with physical disability. We don't really know their reality. We don't know the reality of mothers as well. So I wanted to give them a voice. It was very important for me to show that reality, to be as authentic as possible, to be as intimate as possible, and to have a gentle approach. Like I thank you, Nora, for saying that it is powerful, the film, because I believe in a gentle approach to be powerful as well.
Absolutely.
So for me, it was about being luminous, gentle, almost sensual, being respectful. So yeah, I think we can say a lot like that, and it could be very powerful.
Yeah, it's very, very important to make these voices heard, because if we don't do it, if you don't make these films, and if we or other people like us who are really stepping up and taking this stand, we don't make these possible, we don't offer the platform from where these voices can be seen and heard, they may be completely lost. You're saying these people are invisible. Well, women eventually do become invisible. And I'm talking about that I do a one-woman show personally on stage, and I talk about different categories of casting where you are certain ethnic group and they have been quotas and so on. And then one, we have to have this, one, we have to have that. Everybody has a quota for them except certain age women. Then it's like you're invisible. And I make a joke and I say, well, there is no quota because you can't see it. It's invisible. So it comes to that. You are making something that is invisible. People see disabled people in a chair and they go, oh, poor thing, whatever happened to them, and so on. And they don't give it a second thought. They don't think that there is a whole life behind that. And disability, as I said earlier, can come in many different shapes and forms. It's not just somebody who is in a chair. It could be somebody who is completely able-bodied, but there is some invisible disability that we don't know about and that we have to care and understand, because it's all part of the human experience. And that's what our festival helps do. So we have some time left, and who wants to add something, share something? Oh, speaking of share, this year we're doing something very interesting, or maybe it's something has been done before about it, like it, but we are doing it for the first time. And we are doing an open mic for film festival for filmmakers on March 13 at our Uptown Festival hub, which is Dear Mama. And we have half an hour where 5 or 6 filmmakers can sign up for the open mic, come up and share stories or funny situations or challenges or whatever it is that they met while they were filming. So whoever wants to add whatever, please feel free.
I can actually add that I will be attending the festival, like I said before, but Solène, my protagonist, will be with me, and her husband as well. So that will be a pretty beautiful screening, I think. So come to meet us and see the film on March 14 at 5 p.m. at Cinema Village. Thank you.
And here is the website so people can check it out. And we are so happy that Solène will actually make the trip and come to New York. Really, that is something amazing. So, and I must add that the theater is accessible, of course, and all our venues are. So it will be fine to have her. And Loulwa, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to say that like all these stories we make, like no matter like how we do it, as artists, as filmmakers, are important stories to be told, because I'm sure someone might have made it at some point, but like the way you want to picture things matters, and I think sometimes if some of us don't make these stories, we don't get to like share our voices. So I think it's important to mention, especially now with everything happening in the world. Like if, like, for example, not a lot of like courageous Palestinians like make all the films they're making now, no one would really know their stories, because it's been a challenge to get their stories out in the world. But I also wanted to mention that I'll also be attending the screening on March 14 at 9:15. It's the last screening of the day. So get dinner and energy drink and meet us at the theater. And I'll be joined by one of the protagonists out of 3. I'm upset that like I won't have the others attend, but they won't be able to. But I'll have one with me, and I'm excited to share the stage with him and show the film to the community that's also in the film. So yeah.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, we would have loved to invite everybody who's in the film, but if we did, then there wouldn't be enough room for any audience members. Yes, it's really important to share these stories, and we really pride ourselves to be a little step on the way to that. We also have industry partners who accompany us from the beginning, and that means they pick films from the selection to include in their collections and give them official or professional distribution. So that is also a very, very important point that we pride ourselves in doing. In the past, we've done a lot of industry panels and workshops, whether it's about funding, documentary filming, and distribution, and so on. This year, we only have one panel, which is the BIPOC panel. It's happening on the 13th of March at 4 p.m. at the Forum of the Columbia University Uptown, not the Forum Cinema downtown, Uptown. And it's about Black, Indigenous, people of color films, and what are some of the challenges and how we can all help each other in this area. So the festival runs from March 11 until March 16 in person. That's the in-person section. We open at the National Arts Club. Then we come uptown. On the 12th, we are at Dear Mama, which is a beautiful cafe we have partnered with, and we do the open mic with the filmmakers sharing their stories. On the 13th, same day, we go, the following day, we have the forum, the Bollinger Forum of the Columbia University on 125th Street, uptown. There we show a bunch of films which are about BIPOC films and filmmakers. Then we have the panel, and then we go across the street a couple of blocks to MRHS, which is a NORC, which is a naturally occurring retirement community. And there we screen a number of films that deal with issues having to do with age and aging, followed by a reception that the ticket holders are invited to, and the filmmakers, of course. Please RSVP. It's all on the website. And then on 14th, 15th, 16th, we are at Cinema Village with packed full program of documentaries, narratives, and 2 short film blocks. One of them screens at the beginning on Friday at 1:30 about art and empowering women. And the other one is on Sunday about Armenian, it's called the Armenian Shorts. We have 2 shorts about, again, it's about exile and diaspora, same topics that come up, and about Armenian women in cinema. So I'm happy to say that on Sunday, there is a feature film called Labyrinth, in which I humbly co-star. It's a very old film. It's one of our focus spotlight films. So it's not competing, it's not in competition or anything, so I can't interfere in that. Anyway, all our jury competition films are decided by an international jury that have nothing to do with the festival team. So I hope audience members who are listening now or who will be listening later when the program is on our YouTube channel make use of all these events and encounters with the filmmakers, as that is what we are all about. So I will give another chance to our filmmakers if they want to add one last thing. We have maybe a few more minutes, but if you don't, then we'll just have to say goodbye.
I guess I can add something. Loulwa, you said before, that every film is important. And us as editors, we are in our little room, sort of protected, and we are used to listen and build stories. But to put yourself out there as a director, for me, strangely, I talked before about I wanted Solen's voice to be out there, to not be invisible. Well, she actually helped me to voice myself out as well as a director. And her determination was a true deep lesson to me, for me, through those years, to to persevere through the obstacles and to make it happen. So I just wanted to add that, she was a real inspiration for me.
Yeah, that is it. And it shows in the film. When you watch these films and you see that there is a natural synergy between the filmmaker and their subject, there is a caring and a love and real desire to make their story heard, it really shows and the documentary shines. And really, I am happy to say that the films that ended up in the selection all fall into this category. And I always make the joke about being it's like a situation of Sophie's choice, which film I prefer. I don't, that's why I can't decide who's the winner. There is an international jury completely unrelated to us. I mean, we know them, we know who they are, of course, but we don't influence their decisions. They watch the films completely independently. And I'm happy to say that that's how it happens, because we are too involved. We are too close to the films to be able to say, this one is better than that one. Let's give this one a prize and not that one. So thank you very much. I really honestly thank you from the bottom of my heart. And on this occasion, I thank all the filmmakers who have brought us films and put their trust in our festival. And it becomes a festival thanks to your work, to your brilliant work. And we are honored and happy to be able to showcase it and become the platform. Hopefully, they will go a lot further and make a splash and make a big noise out there in the film world. Thank you. And I'm going to go off the live now. And if audience members think of questions later and they want to put them there, we can also address them in writing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you all soon.